Good afternoon and welcome to the February meeting of the Finance Committee. First up on the agenda behind tab 2 are the meeting minutes from the January Finance Committee meeting that was held on January 10th up in Albany. Can I please get a motion to recommend those meeting minutes unless anybody has any comments or requested changes?
So moved.
Second? Thank you. Tracy? Good. Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Thank you. Next up, behind tab 3, Dave will be presenting. It's the Teachers College.
Yes. Thank you. The Finance Committee is being asked to recommend to the full board one series of tax-exempt and/or taxable fixed and/or variable rate bonds with terms not to exceed 23 years and an amount not to exceed $50 million on behalf of Teachers College. Bond proceeds will be used to refund all or a portion of DASNY Series 2009 bonds. And assuming current market conditions, the total net present value savings in the range of $5.3 million or 12.1% of the refunded bonds is expected from those refunded. Although we're seeking the maximum flexibility to issue both taxable and variable rate bonds, the plan is to issue just one series of tax-exempt fixed rate bonds. As far as security, the college is currently rated A1 by Moody's and A+ by S&P, both rating agencies assigning a stable outlook to the college. And accordingly, Teachers College qualifies for an unsecured borrowing under DASNY's financing guidelines for independent institutions. When looking at the credit of the college, Teachers College continues to maintain its reputation as one of the top graduate schools of education in the nation, which is enhanced by its affiliation with Columbia University. Student demand is reflected in steady annual applications, averaging just under 6,900 over the last 5 years, at a consistently high matriculation ratio that has averaged 56%. The college has remained selective with an average acceptance ratio of just over 51% over 5 years. When looking at operations, Teachers College has posted an operating surplus in each of the last 5 years, averaging $7.8 million or 4% annually. And operating revenues are fairly diverse, with net tuition and fees accounting for 55% of total operating revenue for fiscal year 2016. The college's balance sheet reflects growing financial resources. Unrestricted net assets increased by 53% over 5 years, totaling $101.3 million at fiscal year end 2016, while expendable resources reached $162.5 million, a nearly 13% increase. And lastly, the college is currently in the midst of a $300 million fundraising campaign, the largest ever by a graduate school of education. And to date, $271 million has been raised for target areas such as scholarships, campus improvements, and new programs. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Dave, for the presentation. Any questions, Mr. Chairman?
I don't have any.
Any questions up in Albany?
No questions.
No questions.
Hi, Dave. Thank you very much. Teachers is an outstanding institution. Can I please get a motion to recommend approval of this opening at tomorrow's full board meeting? So moved. Thank you. Second. Thank you. Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, my motion carries. Thank you. Next up is the behind tab 4. Silvercrest Center for Nursing and Rehabilitation, located in Queens, New York, my home borough. Matt, you're up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee is being asked to recommend to the full board a 19-year bond issue in an amount not to exceed $18.5 million on behalf of the Silvercrest Center for Nursing and Rehabilitation. Silvercrest is a not-for-profit corporation that operates a 320-bed skilled nursing facility in Queens, New York, with 80 of its beds dedicated to ventilator patients. The projects that we're considering this afternoon include a refinancing of Silvercrest taxable mortgage loan with TD Bank, a refinancing of Silvercrest capital leased with California First National Bank, as well as various equipment purchases, renovations, and upgrades to the facility. The proposed bond issue is anticipated to be a tax-exempt private placement with TD Bank, and as such, the bonds will not be rated and the institution does not have an underlying rating. The security features are anticipated to be a mortgage on the facility, a pledge of gross receipts, and a security interest in furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Operationally, the institution's results have fluctuated with positive margins in 2011, 12, and 15, but losses from operations in 2013 and 14. In 2015, Vital Access Provider grant monies bolstered their operating gain. As noted in the staff report, in 2011, 12, and 15, the institution's operating margin, excess margin, and net profit margin were all positive and compared favorably to the 2014 medians, but I did want to make a note that this is a relative comparison, as both 2014 statewide and DASNY medians are all negative with regard to operating margins, excess margins, and net profit margins. Regarding the institution, its strengths include the fact that it has a high occupancy rate, it is a member of the New York Presbyterian healthcare system, and it has a large specialty service with 80 dedicated ventilator beds. As noted, the risks include the institution is highly dependent on the Medicaid reimbursement system, and the institution has limited liquidity as noted in their financial ratios, even though it has benefited from Vital Access Provider grant funds. However, the proposed refinancings will extend the existing maturities, thereby enhancing the institution's liquidity. As discussed in the staff report, the proposed refinancing would extend the existing maturity of the taxable mortgage loan from 2023 to 2036. However, the original maturity of this debt was 2031. In addition, the capital lease has an existing maturity of 2029, and this is proposed to be extended to 2036. However, both of these extensions will be subject to tax law constraints. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would like to turn the presentation over to the Department of Health so that they can add their insight into this financing. Thank you.
And I note there's a memo in support of this from the Department of Health that's attached to the credit summary.
Yes,
that is correct, Chairman, yes. And thank you. This is Tracy Raleigh from the department. Just want to put some comments around the memo that we did provide in support. Silvercrest is a not-for-profit nursing home which is of high quality. I don't know if Matt mentioned it's a 5-star rating. And not only does it provide skilled nursing service in the true sense to the geriatric population, it also serves a significant population of ventilator-dependent patients. The reason I'm pointing this out, this extension that we're approving, both for 13 years on the TD Bank loan as well as 7 years on the capital lease, is a exception to our current policy, which requires that the extension match the up to 120% of the depreciable asset life. But the factors I'm mentioning, and they're mentioned in our memo, are the basis for which we provided this exception. So number one, as I said, a high-quality not-for-profit provider. It's a needed provider in the service area. It's also participating in the Vital Access Provider Program, which is a state, provides state operating assistance to fund initiatives that help the provider work on improving efficiencies and quality. So as Matt mentioned, it has been receiving VAP assistance, but it does not project in its plan to be needing state assistance going forward. This refinancing, which does provide liquidity, is another tool that assists the nursing home. Number three, it has provided a plan to us for its sustainability, which does not rely on future state assistance. So we do not expect there to be, or is it in the plan, any future VAP dollars, or is there one-time revenue such as the universal settlement proceeds. They're currently in a technical default with the lender, which is another consideration that we gave. A technical default meaning they're in violation of their debt service coverage ratios. And this refinancing, as we understand, will provide cash flow and does expected to improve the debt service coverage ratios going forward. Expecting to get them back into compliance with the lender, which is TD Bank. And then finally, although we are approving this as an exception to our policy, as Matt mentioned, this will be subject to tax law constraints, so there will be an analysis done by tax counsel that will limit, if based on that analysis, what the extensions will be. So based on those factors and the fact that it's a needed facility in the service area, we recommend approval of this financing for Silvercrest.
Tracy, it's Al Carney. Would you tell us a little bit about the exception that DOH is making now? Is this something that you do? Does this happen often? Are these exceptions few and far between?
I wouldn't say that these exceptions do not happen often. It's not in violation of any other state statute or regulation.
Oh no, I get it. I understand that you all can make the decision to have the exception, and you've made that decision. I'm not questioning it. I was just curious to know whether this is something that happens in a given year often or not often at all, or there are years when you don't ever grant them. I'm just curious to know how often.
Okay, I apologize. I understand. It's not often. I think that what you're seeing here is something that we expect will be a sign of the future as nursing facilities, our skilled nursing facilities are now experiencing transitioning into Medicaid managed care and value-based payment and all the uncertainties that brings. So this is something we expect we may encounter going forward. But in terms of past practice, this is not something we would make exception to often.
And again, I have no issue with the decision to do this. And when we get to the recommendation phase, I'm certainly going to vote in favor of it. But do you put in place any additional protocols when you make exceptions like this?
Sure. As I mentioned, we had an extensive back and forth with the applicant, and we did require a plan for sustainability. So we required projections of income statement, cash flow, balance sheet, which included the initiatives that they have in place, as well as the benefits of the refinancing. And we, as part of our routine monitoring at the department, we will be looking at them, going forward.
Okay, thank you. I didn't have any other questions.
Could you just explain the conditions so we can have that pretty really set out on the record? What the health department conditions were or are? The construction
Sure,
notices? What is that?
Oh, sure, yes, I should have mentioned. There's a new money portion to this financing, which is $4.5 million for various infrastructure improvements, roof replacement, for example. And they require, because they're non-clinical in nature, they require a construction notice to be submitted to the department, and we can report that the Silvercrest is in compliance with those required findings.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other questions or
None here, sir.
concerns? Hearing none. Can I get a motion to recommend approval of this at tomorrow's board meeting?
I'll move it.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Anything else on the agenda for the finance committee? The business, the whole business, we're all good. So then I'll get a motion to. I move that, yeah. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Thank you.
Yes.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. The motion carries and we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Bobby.
It's interesting. It's interesting, the private placement we're keeping.
Yeah.